Evolutionary.org podcast is coming your way, episode 633. Today we have an interview with Evolutionary EVO member TagII or TagII. And this one is titled The Comeback. So we're going to talk about he's been through some stuff in his past, just like everyone else, and he's overcome it and he's become, a serious guy on the forum. So this is going to be a really, really good one. And hopefully we can pick up some information from him and he can talk about some of the issues because you may be in the same situation. You may have a family member in the same situation. So it's really good to really talk about this stuff. First, to remind everybody, we are on Apple, we are on Spotify, we're on different platforms. If you want to help the podcast grow, you want to help the algorithms pick us up, it's very important that you like and you subscribe and you do all that fun stuff. And that helps the algorithms pick us up. And we're really appreciative of that. So with that, how you doing, Tag? It's good to see you. How you been?
Doing good. Doing
Great.
good. Thank y'all for
Great.
having me on here.
Absolutely. Mobster?
Yeah. Steve reminded me pre-show, and something we've done for the last 2, 3 shows, listeners, is these interviews, these talking to forum members has become very interesting. We enjoy it and very popular was the word I was actually looking for. So I want to start my part of the show by thanking Tag for coming on, thanking him for his input on the forum, the feedback, the back and forth with the members, and so on and so forth. We can't do these shows, Tag, without members like you being willing to take part, putting out the information that you do. And again, forums and the community, especially that we've seen recently, especially to be building up to way more than perhaps we've done the last few years, comes from having active members that put in and give to the forum and help with information and having feedback and having, whether it's just in your log, being yourself, talking about your training, whatever, but especially for today for coming onto the show. So on behalf of the forum and the bosses of the forum, and Stevesmi and myself, thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, no problem.
So let's get right into it. So let's start a little bit about your history. So just to let everyone know, you can go and check out his log. It's in his signature, and you can come on the forum on the top right. You'll see a search bar, and you can type by member. You put in tag, and then you can put in II, and you'll get him pop up. And then in his signature, you can always find his log. And his log is called 2025 Summer Growth Cycle Testosterone, Masteron, Primabol, and Deca. So, and he started out the log. He's currently 35 as of June. I don't know if you turned 36 since then. You started out 5'9", and we talked about on the pre-show, you're still at 190. So you've been kind of staying at the same weight. But originally, you've had quite a history. So let's start a little bit talking about that. Juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. It's something that we hear a lot about. I've seen commercials for this on TV for I dated a girl who had this. She was a gymnast. She had really bad arthritis. She had to carry around pills because any time it would flare up, it was really, really tough. So you had it from when you were 11 to 16 years old. So once you start talking about that, what is this juvenile rheumatoid?
Can I jump in for a second? And
Sure.
I'm sure Tag appreciates this. We always think of arthritis, specifically rheumatoid arthritis, as something that old people get. I'm starting to get aches and pains in my right hand from the grip shit I've done for years. What listeners might not be aware, and our core audience is relatively young, 25-ish, 18 to 25, maybe a little bit older. We don't think of young people getting rheumatoid arthritis, and obviously juvenile is just a younger person's version of what we think is an old person's condition. So talk a little bit, as Steve said, about having rheumatoid arthritis when you was a youngster between the ages of 11 to 16, because obviously we think of it as being an old person's thing, but that's not true.
Yeah, definitely. So when I was 11, I was playing basketball one evening, and my elbow started hurting. It was like a pain where it just like it wouldn't go away. Not like a muscle pain, more of a joint pain. Um, the next morning when I woke up, I could not bend my elbow. And my mom took me to the doctor. She thought I had, broke my elbow or something like that. They did x-rays and they didn't see anything. And they said, okay, well, there's a lot of inflammation in his elbow. Let's put a cast on it just to be safe. I had a high fever. It was like 101, 102. And this went on for like a month. Um, and the doctors couldn't figure out what was going on. My elbow wasn't getting any better. I sweated through 3 casts. And they were finally like, hey, look, we're not going to keep putting casts on you because we can't get the fever down. So then they sent me to a specialist who said, hey, you don't have anything wrong with your elbow. You have arthritis. So then they sent me to another specialist that specialized in juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. And that's when I found out that I was allergic to a lot of medicines. And so that started the journey of trying to find out how we were going to control this and all this stuff. And it was, it was weird being, 11 years old and having your joints lock up like an old person. I remember I used to have to take and dip my hands in paraffin wax and do finger stretches every night because like my fingers had started to curl up. And it was an experience, especially for a child. And then as I got older, I learned how to, work through a lot of it. And my mom never let me stop because the doctors always said, hey, if he stops moving, he's going to lock up.
Yes. Let me ask you a question, and it's just associated with arthritis, specifically your particular condition. As then, I do seem to vaguely recall that it can be, and Steve talks about inflammation all the time. You can actually have issues with specific foods that can make it flare up. Literally what you've just said, something I've started doing my right hand is not being able to flatten it in the same. My left hand would easily flatten. I have to force my right hand down. And again, I've been training that particular hand and doing crazy shit for years. So, wear and tear comes part of it. And again, as I said with Steve, with the inflammation thing, whether that's specific to the medical stuff that you said, certain medication or certain foods. And just on the last thought, and specifically what you said about your mother not letting you do the stuff. One thing I constantly advise people for with any kind of condition, but specifically recovering from conditions, and you've seen me say this on the forum recently, is rehab, rehab, rehab. So constantly doing those stretching exercises, constantly working on the elbow, constantly doing stuff for years to enable you to recover. And again, you say from the 11 till 16. So I'm assuming you say you still get some joint discomfort, joint pain, I think was a comment that you've made here, but you don't specifically still have the arthritis. Is that correct?
That's correct. So it was really like a God thing. Nobody can really explain what happened. My SED rate that measures your inflammation was through the roof. And one day we went in and had it checked and it was normal. Doctors couldn't explain it. Now, I still had the damage from where the arthritis was. I still have joint issues. I still have stiffness. I can't touch my toes. Now, if I have 500 pounds in my hand, it's amazing. I can bend over and touch my toes. But apart from that, I can't do it.
What do you think caused it originally? Because they don't really know with the juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. There's not a definitive reason, but a lot of people think it's an autoimmune issue. Do you think that's what happened with you? Or is that something?
It is. It's an autoimmune issue. So when I was a baby, I had galactosemia. And the doctors told my parents that I would outgrow it. Galactosemia is like an allergic reaction to like galactose, and that's found in milk. When I got older, I started to be able to tolerate like cheese and stuff like that. And I ate a lot of it, and I didn't realize, it was making me sick. When I got arthritis, it's possible that was my body trying to react to me eating all the cheese and stuff that I shouldn't have been eating.
Yeah, that makes sense. So do you eat dairy today?
No, I don't eat any dairy. At 17, I got ulcerative colitis. And at 21, I had my colon cut out.
It's okay, buddy. I eat all your cheese and ice cream for you. I just thought.
Mobster does. I haven't touched dairy myself like in 12 years or 15 years. So
my dad eats like 10 pounds of cheese a day. So I mean, I'm sure that they're still eating the cheese for me.
Mobster was a rat in his last life, so he loves cheese.
I've got a different kind of question here. It's related a little bit. in this particular one. I said to Steve about 25, 30 minutes ago on Teams in the notes, talking to the pre-show, talking about what we were going to do with you when you came on. And I said that we're going to ask you in a minute to be a bit more specifically about the removal of your colon. And one of the things that I made a note of, when we had David Williams, my powerlifting buddy, on, I see that you said something in your log about needing a lot more calories than usual because of your colon or part of your colon being removed. And so I said that reminded me of David Williams because of his specific medical condition, and joking about the ice cream as part of it, the sheer volume of food that he sometimes has to put away, or if not the volume, the calorific value has to be that much higher just for you to get the same amount of energy from food as someone that eats, for example, 3,000 calories a day and perhaps absorbs 80 or 90% of that for energy. You need 4,000 or 5,000 calories a day just to get 2,000 or 3,000 calories. And that could be arguably, we're joking aside about ice cream and dairy, would be a great way for you to get extra calories in. It's a damn shame that you can't. But not to give us a few more thoughts on the arthritis before we talk about the actual big, huge for you and for many people, if it happened to them, surgery back in 2011.
So yeah, the arthritis, that was, I would say my parents during that time pushed me a lot, and that's where I got my drive for the gym today. My work ethic too,
Yeah,
because like I said, my mom never let me stop. We used
yeah.
to live in the mountains, and she used to take me out mountain bike riding. Um, and even when my knees hurt, even when my back hurt, she would say, "Come on, son, you just got to do it." And
Yeah.
that's what I do today. I mean, I go work, you know, a 10, 12 hour day, and then I go to the gym and work out for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And people ask me, where do you get your motivation from? And it's not about motivation. It's just doing it.
Yeah. It's
Yes.
funny when you grow up because I grew up with a lot of stomach problems. I talked about this before. And that inspired me to become a nutritionist, and that inspired me to educate myself on nutrition because I refused as an adult to let that, like, there'd be some days like you where I
Yes.
would be just in pain, and it's just like I'd be on the
He
bathroom
could have
floor.
the
Yep.
best fucking excuse ever for not doing the shit. And his mum and dad could have said, "Oh, poor him. Let's not push him too hard. Let's
Yeah.
mollycoddle him. Let's do this, that, and the other." And you go, "No, fuck you. Let's make him do the same shit as the other kids because we don't want him to feel like he's different." And then he realizes from experience, from the love from his parents, this is exactly what I needed to do. It proves to him, and I hope there's a bit of a message here for listeners. You can have, when we're going to talk about the colon, and that is a massive operation, right? And it can be dramatic. Guys have to wear, I forgot, colostomy bags and stuff. Okay. And one of the people I follow on Instagram literally does strongman stuff and training and whatever else with the fucking bag, and it's visible in the pictures. And I love the idea. If you get wheels
Yeah.
on, one of the things that someone else has said, there's no fucking excuses because you
Yeah.
are doing shit that people find difficult. And arguably, you have had reasons, certainly in the past, huge reasons for not being pushy, for not working out hard, etc., etc. So I love the fact that your parents didn't slack up, and I love the fact it's given you that drive and determination, no matter fucking what, to get your shit done. Tag. So that's amazing. I really, really love that stuff.
Yeah, so this log is called the comeback. So let's kind of move up to that what Mobster was talking about. You had your colon removed in 2011. So you got really, really skinny, 145 pounds in 2017, and then you bulked up to 160. So what happened there in that term? What happened with the colon? Explain that, what that is exactly, why you had to have your colon removed, and what caused that problem in the first place. Because this could be something a lot of guys out there and gals have an issue with and they just don't know it because a lot of this stuff, like when I grew up and I had my stomach problems, they never properly diagnosed what was wrong with me. They never got me on a proper diet. They tried, but they just didn't have access to the information we have today. So what are some of the symptoms and side effects that you got leading up to the colon issues that you had?
All right, so this is going to be a little graphic, but it was what it was. So when I was 16, getting ready to turn 17, I'm a teenager, you know, changing hormones and all that fun stuff. Um, and I started pooping blood. And I didn't know what was going on. Figured, it would just go away. Maybe I ate something and it, didn't digest well or something like that. Um, and then it just kept getting worse to the point that I was like doubling over in pain. So finally, I talked to my mom and dad, and I said, "Hey, look, I don't really know what's going on." So they took me to the doctor, um, and they did a colonoscopy, which I think is funny because I swear that I'm an old man in a young man's body because all the stuff that all these old guys at work tell me, oh yeah, I got to
Yeah.
go get my colonoscopy because I just turned 60, and I'm like, yeah, I've had like 60 of them, and I'm 35.
we us old fellas as such got really comfortable the last 10, 15 years. And I'm just talking about people literally coming up to me when I was working, going, talking about prostate stuff. And you're like, the old jokes about the fingers up the arse, all this kind of stuff. And now we're talking, a colonoscopy, guys, is literally, he's going to have the camera up his butt to
Yep.
make sure of his ulceration, where the bleeding's coming from. And we get really comfortable in a kind of weirdly skewed, slightly pervy way because at some point you are so fucking ill, you're shitting so much blood, you fuck this, I want to get it sorted. And so you
Yeah,
become
I
kind
mean,
of weirdly comfortable with, yeah.
so I was really skinny. I've always been a really skinny guy. I've been athletic. I've always had decent muscle tone. But because of, the intestine issues and stuff like that, started when I was like 17. I always struggled with putting on weight. Um, but when I went to the doctor, they discovered I had ulcerative colitis. And lucky me for being allergic to literally everything in the world. Um, every medicine they tried me on didn't work, didn't help, and all this stuff. Um, I was taking Humira. I can't even remember all the ones they had me on. The common denominator was prednisone. I was on prednisone for 5.5 years. I was on prednisone up until after I had my colon cut out. Um,
Yeah, that's
and
bad. That's bad. Yeah.
you want to talk about it. So, I mean, I'm 17 years old, going, 17, 18, 19, 20, and then 21 when I finally got my colon removed. Um,
That's
when
got
I
to
was
mess
on
with your fucking hormones. Did that mess with your quote unquote teenage hormones?
Yeah, so I I'll get into that when we start talking about the PD usage and everything, but I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that led to what I believe was low testosterone at an early age because I struggled with bone density,
Yeah.
with muscle mass,
Yep.
and all that stuff. But um, I was
I'll
17
just
years old.
just to interrupt you, Tag, and this is more for the benefit of the listeners again. On David Williamson, I've had many conversations with David about this. Ulcerative colitis, guys, is essentially, and Steve mentioned the phrase earlier on, autoimmune disease. It is your body, your immune system attacking what it sees as a foreign body, which is in reality actually obviously part of your body, and it causes perforation and ulceration of the lower part, the colon. So literally, it's attacking. It's inflamed. It's ulcerated, etc., etc., and it's very similar Crohn's and colitis in terms of the medical effects. Shitting multiple times per day, shitting blood. It's not unusual. I've literally been around David when he shitting blood down the toilet, gone to hospital, and then competed the next day. You feel washed out a lot. The food issue is massively, I think, and he's gone through whole times where he can only eat one kind of food for a month, and then he can't eat that for many months because the body decides to reject it, so it goes on to other things. The idea, and I just want to be finished on this thing. It, it's it's very simple to discuss. It's very simple to read it or listen to it on the show. The reality of the experience is just constantly ill, constantly not getting enough food, constantly washed out, and that's without getting into the medications. Dave's had multiple um, experts come and go through their careers, through his life, trying to restart different medications and whatever else. Essentially, it's a lifelong condition, and you're going to have to fucking deal with parts of it. The last straw, and Tag's already had this, is to have sections of or all of your colon removed. And so Dave, for example, is trying to avoid it like the plague, but he's probably going to have to do it at some point. and then we get into the whole colostomy bag and reattaching parts of the intestine from one part to another part. So it's graphic, but we try to be honest and brutal and open on these shows. And again, like Steve said already, we want you, the listener, to understand, especially if you're suffering like this, you're not on your own. We can talk about this kind of stuff. We can have you on the forum talking about it, and hopefully we can offer some help and just a voice or whatever stuff. Sorry, Tag, for interrupting.
Oh, you're fine. So yeah, I was, when I first started on the prednisone, I was 17 years old. And you already have all those hormones and everything going through your body. I wasn't sleeping. I would sleep for about an hour a night because prednisone had me so wired. And I did that for like 5.5 years, of just constantly, I'd sit up at night, everybody in the house be asleep. I would play video games. I would watch movies. And I'm not a gamer, so like, I understand there's gamers out there that sit up and play video games all night and they love it. For me, I'm not a gamer, so at some point I was just like, God, this is so freaking boring. I don't know what I'm gonna do. So I started working out. And I wanted to be. My dad has always been a big muscular guy, so I figured why not look like my dad. So my dad set up a gym for me in the basement, and I started. It'd be 11 o'clock at night. Everybody be asleep. I'd go downstairs and I'd work out for a couple hours. Um, it would be, work out for a few minutes, go to the bathroom, work out for a few minutes, go to the bathroom. One thing with having a colon and having ulcerative colitis, you don't ever go anywhere without knowing where the bathroom's at.
Yeah.
Because when it hits you, you go right then. So it's one of those things you have to learn how to.
30 or 40 times a day is not unusual. 20 times a day can be typical for some people with this condition. And again, two
Oh
buddies
yeah,
of mine.
It's
Yeah.
brutal.
I brag now because I normally go to the bathroom anywhere between 6 to 10 times a day. And
Yeah.
everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, how do you do that?" I'm like, "Look, it's a lot better than the 35 I was doing before. So hey,
Oh,
I'll
God,
take it."
yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
tough,
was
man.
just gonna
Like
I was
it's
gonna joke with sorry, I was gonna joke with you, Tag. I've just got visions of him, Steve, clanging the weight stand at 11 o'clock at night. Hey, get the fucking noise stand.
why? What was I was
Did
gonna
it
say?
did it yeah, sorry, I was gonna did it help you keep muscle on? Did it help you deal with your medical condition, being able to train? And I mean mentally as well as physically?
I think it was more of just a mental thing. I don't think it. I did. Like I said, my parents drove me a lot and pushed me a lot. And my doctor, he told me, he was like, "Hey, you are the only person I've ever seen with this condition that's able to actually gain muscle mass
Yep,
while going to the bathroom 35, 40 times a day." Um,
yep.
and, you know, my mom and dad always said, "Hey, if you're ever going to do anything, do it to the best of your ability."
Yeah.
Um, and when I went to go have my colon removed, the surgeon that removed it, he asked me, so he did a colonoscopy pre-surgery so he could see what he was getting himself into, and he asked me, he said, "How long have you been out of work?" I said, you know, what do you mean?" He said, "How long have you been like out of work, like not been able to go to work?" I was like, "Oh, I was there yesterday." He was like, "Oh, you just went in there for a couple hours?" I said, "No, I worked 12 hours yesterday." He
Yeah.
was like, "What?" He said, "How did you do that?" I said, "I helped because I work retail, so I helped customers, and I went to the bathroom, and I helped customers, and I went to the bathroom, and I did a
Yeah.
planogram, and I did some cycle counts, and I went to the bathroom."
Mm.
And he was like, people in your condition, they get on disability, they don't go to work." And
Mm.
that never crossed my mind because I've never thought of not going and not doing anything because
Yeah.
my parents have always been like, "Hey, you can do this. You can do this." And so when he removed my colon, uh, after the surgery and everything, he came to my hospital room and he told me, he said, um, "So how long did you say you were out of work?" I said, I told you I stopped working right before the surgery." He said, "You had the worst colon I've ever removed." He said, I do cancer patients and everything else." He said, your ulcers were so bad I could see them on the outside of the colon." He said, "I've never seen one that bad." And I said,
I'm
"Man, you
just
just."
wondering if that's I'm just wondering if it's like thanks, dude.
Yeah, I
So
was like,
hypothetically,
like a
I was like,
like
hey,
a
that's like getting
sideways
first place.
compliment.
First place.
so hypothetically, if you had not gotten that done, like let's say hypothetically, you were in a situation where economically you couldn't get it done, or you lived like in a, poor country where you didn't have
Mm,
access
mm.
to medicine, and then you have not gotten that colon removed, would that have led to you eventually dying?
So colon cancer was the next step, is what my doctor explained to me.
Okay. So it
Um,
basically turns into colon cancer, and then you're probably gonna pass away,
It's
right?
Steve. Listen. The amount of blood that he could lose, and especially in a third world country, the inability to absorb certain nutrients, etc., and piss poor medical care, as you're referring to. If he was in the wrong place at the wrong fucking time and he collapsed or fainted or whatever else, he could injure himself at work, falling over, fainting. He could literally bleed out, and if it was
Yep.
constantly bleeding out, because your body will replace it, obviously, over time. But if he doesn't replace it, you've got anemia issues, you've got fainting and oxygen. So there
Yeah.
is an
So
argument to be made for the quality. The issue here, the number one issue here is the quality of life. Him not working, whatever, being on
yeah.
disability forever, and just feeling, to put it crudely, like shit all the time, versus being living in America, getting the surgery, even using the colostomy bag as I've
So let
referred
me,
to, or medication and so
yeah,
on. So
I hear
yes,
it.
it
Yeah.
could be, it could be a life shortening issue for sure. Yeah.
So did they tell you though that you should be able to live now? Like in people in your condition, is your lifespan going to be reduced all in all, or should you hit the I think the average male in America right now lives to I think 77. I could be wrong on that, don't quote me. But like did they say that you're going to have a shortened life even after getting that done, or do you have a chance to exceed that?
yeah, no, I should have a normal lifespan now. Just assuming nothing else goes wrong.
Okay.
But
And then yeah. And then I want to
with
ask you, like, with your condition now, obviously before, like, let's say you want to go to a sporting event, you got to drive an hour, you got to sit in traffic for, whoever, who knows how long to get in and out. The game takes 3 hours. Is that possible, to even go to a sporting event, for example, or go.
so that's actually like why I'm stuck at 190 right now. Um, because with work, like I said, I work a lot. I do a lot of events with work and stuff like that. Um, and there's times where I know that I'm not going to be able to go to the bathroom. So I kind of space my meals out to work around that.
Okay.
And over time,
Yeah.
so I had a reversal done. So I don't have a colostomy bag. Um, they took my small intestine, they stretched it into they
Yes.
call it
Yes.
a
Yes.
J pouch.
Yeah.
And over time, I have stretched it out, I guess,
Yeah.
because I can go longer and longer between bathroom breaks. Um,
Mhm.
some people tell me that's not healthy, but I say, hey, you know what? If I can make it through a day and I can, go to the bathroom before I go to work, go to the bathroom once
Mhm.
I work, and go to the bathroom right before I leave work, then I had a
What
successful day
what what
because I
do they
didn't
say
spend my
is
day in the
not
bathroom.
what do they say is not healthy?
I mean, just because they say you shouldn't hold that, you're like, I don't
Oh,
hear
oh,
from
okay.
doctors.
Okay.
Just they say I hear people all the time tell me, hey, you shouldn't hold it that long.
Mhm.
Well, I also don't have,
These
you
aren't
know,
these aren't medical experts. This is just like random people, I'm guessing.
Okay. And then
yeah,
what about
yeah.
like driving
Yeah.
long distances or flying on a plane? Like if you're on a plane and there's turbulence, they're like you can't get out of your seat. Like so are you able to do things like that or do you have to just keep everything short?
No, I mean, like I said, I fly for work, and I space my meals out so that I know that
Okay.
if I know that I'm gonna be,
So that
not
helps.
able to use the
Okay.
bathroom for 8 hours, this is what I've got to do.
Do you
It's
do
like a
one meal?
weird,
Do you do
weirdly
you
like it's like sorry, fasting, like you, Steve. It's like fasting, and he
Yeah,
knows
that's what I was
he
gonna
can't.
ask. So are you
Yeah.
are you doing time restricted eating or are you doing one
Yes.
meal a
That's what
day
I
or
think.
2 meals a day? What are you doing exactly with that?
So it varies by what falls in my day.
Yes.
So like on a normal work day, like this morning I got up, I had my 6 eggs and my cup and a half of ground up oatmeal, with protein powder in it. Um, and I have not been to the bathroom since I got to work this morning. I'm gonna eat lunch after this, and then um, I'll go on with the rest of my day. Probably around 3, 4 o'clock, I might take a bathroom break. Then when I get home, I'll go to the gym. I'll come home and then I'll eat a larger meal at that time. Normally, I eat a pretty good sized lunch, um, and then I eat a pretty good sized dinner, and then I'll eat usually another snack before I go to bed. Sometimes during the day, depending if I've got more time in the day, I'll eat more throughout the day. It just depends on what I have scheduled and how the day goes.
I think the only thing that you said in terms of this, that you've adapted to the lifestyle, you're adapting to the demands, work demands, your accessibility to the toilet, how long you're going to be on your feet, whether it's a long 12-hour day or not a 12-hour day. But you've made reference a couple of times as we've been talking to the holding you back perhaps at 190. I'm reminded just of sometimes I would gain on holidays because I was able to eat more frequently on holidays versus the work that I was doing at that time, and so on and so forth. So, plus, and again, this is for the benefit of the listeners as much as anybody. Weight gain, muscle adding isn't linear. It's not a constant thing. So, Tag is having to adapt to his situation, but there will be times when his situation allows him to eat more and allows him to absorb more, and then maybe gains 1, 2, 3 more pounds over that period of time, then maintains, but he does what he needs to do. I mean, you've already mentioned a little bit about the training, helping with the mental stuff. Just on the training, and without jumping too far ahead.
Yeah. Wait, before you get to that, I just want to finish this up. Tag, what's advice for people out there who think they might have issues with their colon? What are some testing they can do? What type of doctor should they go to? What type of specialist should they go to? So they can cut to the chase and check this out. Because there's some people out there listening right now. They're like, wow, I might have an issue with my colon and I don't want it to get worse. So what's your advice? And then we'll move on to the training.
I would suggest find a good gastroenterologist, and I'm going to tell you, all doctors are not the same. There's a lot of doctors that are just straight up idiots. I told a doctor in one of the visits I went to, I told the doctor he was an idiot because I moved, and my doctor that I had from the whole time I had ulcerative colitis told me, "Hey, you're moving. You're going to be, a good distance away. You're not going to be able to come see me if anything happens. You need to go find you a doctor where you're moving to. That way, if anything goes wrong, they know your whole situation." So I went to go see a couple of doctors, and I walked into one doctor's office and was explaining to him that I don't have a colon. He said, "Okay, so you had part of it cut out." I said, "No, I don't have a colon." He said, "Well, that's not physically possible. You would be dead." I said, "Well, I don't have one." I said, "You can look at my chart. There's not a colon in there." And he sat there and argued with me. So I just got up and walked out the office. Yeah. I would suggest make sure that you know enough about your body and know enough about your situation that if a doctor doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, that's a great point. I went through that. I went to so many gastroenterologists as a kid, and a lot of them, they just don't care. I think that's what it is. I think they just don't care. Unless you know them or you're a family friend, you're just a number to them.
Yeah, they're more worried, I had a blood clot in my brain when I was 9, Steve. That's the reason why I've got a scar on my head. And the GP, what you would call an MD, the first person we saw said I had a viral condition. I ended up having to see 5 different hospitals in the same day before they realized it was a blood clot in the brain. So I definitely take Tag's advice, guys. If the doctor doesn't seem to know what the fuck they're doing, change doctors. You don't have to kick off and be an arse about it.
It's the same thing as taking your car to an auto mechanic. Most of them are idiots. You got to find a good. Everybody knows when you first move to a town who the good mechanics are and who the junk ones are. And if everyone
especially someone with working, practical fucking knowledge of your medical condition, rather than what we call a GP or an MD, because they are generally okay, but they're not specifically okay.
Yeah. So anything in the body in medicine is so hard because you can't see it. It's not like a dermatologist who can see, outside the skin. It's inside the body. And
people are still uncomfortable. Even GPs and MDs are still uncomfortable with the whole colon and the rectal stuff and whatever else. It's not something that they particularly enjoy studying. It's not something they particularly enjoy doing. It's one of those things you have to do sometimes as a doctor. And people like Tag coming in, oh God, it's that guy going to have to put the rubber gloves on again. All joking aside, is not something that they look forward to. They'd much rather deal with.
I agree with what Tag says. There's a lot of people I know who have diabetes, and you ask them, they're type 2 diabetes, and you ask them, what is type 2 diabetes? And they don't even know. I'm like, what causes type 2 diabetes? They don't know. What does insulin do in the body? They don't know. What does metformin do? I don't know. You've got to know if you have a condition like what Tag has. You got to research it. You got to know, because if you went to that doctor,
I bet Tag's a fucking expert, Steve, and I don't just mean by practical experience.
Yeah, you got to become an expert on what's wrong with you and do and go to the right people and gain this knowledge. You can't just be like, oh, I'm just going to take insulin. I got diabetes. I'm just going to take insulin. It's like, well, maybe it's not the best option. Go ahead.
And then you never change it. And then you never change your diet. So I mean, and the thing is, nobody knows more about your body than you because you're living in it.
Yeah.
And that's another
But
good point because everybody's different. Like Mobster mentions David Williams. He came on the podcast. David
Mm.
Williams is one of the top powerlifters in the world, and his
Yeah.
diet is completely different
Oh, it's
than
horrendous at times, Steve. He's done weeks where he had nothing but potatoes,
yeah.
other weeks
His
with nothing but
diet,
rice
he's
bread.
got a he
Yep.
had to mold a diet that fits what he's looking for. So
Yes.
his diet is not going to be the same for someone else. So you've got to really
No.
know what you're putting in your body. That's is very very important. Single ingredient
Let,
whole foods. You got to know.
let me move us along a little tiny
Yeah,
bit. And
move it.
this is
Yep.
just, again, for the benefit of the listeners, right? I'm going to read out some numbers. And this is what Tag's doing. This is just snapshots from his log. And this is proof positive that you can have serious medical conditions, you can have stomach operations, you can have part of your colon removed. These are pretty fucking good numbers, Tag. So let me just preface that, right? Deadlifts, 500 pounds for fucking reps. The man wants 550 pounds. I made that comment in his log. Decent squat, you are doing 400 pounds for sets and reps. And these are big numbers. There's only about 2 or 3% of any gym in the world where these kind of numbers are regular for that percentage of people. Close to 300 pounds for reps on the bench. I think I might got you there. These are big numbers. And again, I touched on this in the pre-show with Tag and Steve. I said that because of these medical conditions, because it's difficult for Tag to gain weight. Bearing in mind, he's gone from a skinny fuck, 5'9", 145 with a bunch of medical conditions to, as I wrote in my show notes, is Tag, a hench looking a 190. He made a comment, and I'll talk about the weightlifting, the training, and specifically the muscularity that Tag has with Tag in a moment. He made a comment about maybe being slightly dysmorphic because he doesn't always see that he's muscular. And the rest of the members, Tag, and I know that you've seen these comments in your log, we're like, look at that man's fucking shoulders. They're boulder shoulders, right? You've got veins and shit and veins on your arms. And there's people out there that will kill, I mean kill for your physique. So number one, as a side compliment, you got muscle, boy. don't be fucking mistaking that. So
thank
talk a
you.
little bit about how you perceive yourself, but also being a strong motherfucker and the benefits of training full stop. Just for you now, never mind what it was like before helping, what it's like for you now as an athlete in your 30s and 40s.
So I always want to be stronger. I always want to be bigger. I look in the mirror and I still see that 17-year-old, 16-year-old kid that was a beanpole, had no muscle. My dad's always been 6'3", 260, nothing but muscle. And I've always wanted to be big like my dad. I've always heard people talk about how big my dad is. My dad used to carry transmissions out of a junkyard on his shoulder. And that's always, been my thing. I've always wanted to be able to have stories that I could do stuff like my dad did. So, um, when I deadlift heavy weight and stuff like that, I always think, well, man, can I do a little bit more? Because I see bigger guys doing more weight, and I know mass moves mass. That's why I'm trying to, get bigger. I'm trying to stay aesthetic as well, but my wife doesn't want me to get too big. But it just in the back of my mind when I look in the mirror, I don't ever see the big person. But then, like when I see pictures and stuff, like my wife takes pictures when I'm just like walking around and stuff. I'm like, wow, I actually do look like I have some muscle. But I don't
Mm-hmm.
like when I look in the mirror, I don't see it.
When
It's
you look
just,
at
I
yourself
guess
on
it's
the
that
ring,
body dysmorphic thing.
it's like me when I see myself on the ring camera. I'm like I don't even recognize myself.
Yeah,
But it's like it's
yeah,
I
my
only
funny.
notice how big I am when I'm standing next to other people, but on my own, I think actually I echo Tag a little bit insofar as when we see ourselves in isolation, we're so used to how we look, we need something to drive and motivate us to be bigger, stronger, more muscular. But when we compare ourselves to people, or as your wife taking photographs of you in casual situations, you go, hang on, you're not in a gym environment. I'm just walking around past my furniture in my house. Look how fucking big I am. You kind of get that. And as Steve says, even when we've done these shows, I've listened to myself and I sound so much my brother Peter or my dad. but I don't recognize that when I'm talking to you now, as we're doing this show right now. So it's weird how we perceive ourselves. But listen, 100%, you're a big muscular, strong muscular motherfucker. But
Yeah. Check
obviously, you
out,
still need to be drive and motivated to go
go
more
on.
harder.
If you guys look on the first post of his log, on Tag's log, you'll see his first picture from 2017. He looks like bird chest, skinny arms, very aesthetic, but like looks like, just like a skinny guy. And then you see 2 years later,
Now,
it's like
now,
boom,
yeah,
it's like a different
yep,
person. And then a year later, a different person. And then a year after that, different. And then 4 years after that, in 2025, from 2017,
yep,
we're talking 8 years. He built a terrific body. So if you're one of these guys, you got the bird chest, got skinny arms, whatever, and you're like, well, I want to change my body in 3 months. I want to change my body in 6 months. Think about it. It took Tag 8 years to really get to his max, and he's continuing to improve from here. So this isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. So you got to take it step by step. So it's very motivational to see if you're a skinny guy, 100, he was 100, what, 145 pounds?
yes, yes,
And then
and
now
with
he's
medical
190.
conditions.
So 45 pounds. You want to put on good, clean 45 pounds. You don't want to just hop
Yep,
on
no,
D-Bowl, test, and DECA and put on 30 sloppy pounds and look like a bloated fish. So it's good that I like that Tag over 8 years put on a solid
yep,
45 pounds and built it the right way because his physique now, like he said, is aesthetic. He's got abs popping. He's got veins
yep,
in his arms. And
vascular,
yeah.
yep,
So that's how you got to
delts
do it.
especially. Yep,
So I ended up ironically working in his favor, being an ectomorph and starting out skinny. It worked in his favor. So those of you out there who are skinny, remember Tag and remember what I'm saying is that because I
yep.
was ectomorph too. I was like 115 pounds when I was a freshman in high school. But like at the end of the day, it's an advantage to be an ectomorph. Don't look at it as a
Oh
disadvantage.
yeah, 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 yeah. I'm ectomeso. I'm not endomeso. So yeah, the idea of having small joints and it makes you look fucking great. Honestly, again, just on the dysmorphic stuff, right? And not to bang the drum too much. We need kicks in the ass, mentally, physically, whatever, to drive us, to motivate us to push, to train hard, to eat well, to do whatever the fuck, to motivate ourselves, especially. And some of that's come from his parental background, not giving up on him, not allowing him to sort of, wallow in his illnesses and ailments, etc., etc. Some of that has come from how he sees himself in the mirror. It's not a daily thing. We're not constantly, going to the shops thinking we're skinny or whatever else, but we're in the gym. We need something to drive us, to motivate us to kick ass. So listen, absolutely, he's got some big numbers. He's very muscular. Talk a little bit because we'll ask you about this anyway. The difference for you with PEDs, and specifically as you referred to earlier on, the issue with the medication that he was on then, and the effects on your body, and the effects that PEDs have had on your body as well.
So yeah, when I first got into this journey, well, it was a light switch situation actually. I because I don't have a colon and everything, and I don't want to dwell on the medical stuff, but I had the stomach virus, and whenever I get a stomach virus, I usually have to go to the hospital and get fluids because I can't keep fluids in me fast enough. And I was there, and I had a daughter, my oldest daughter at the time. She was only 3 years old. Uh, the nurse came in and was checking my vitals, and my daughter was sitting there with my wife, and the nurse says, "Oh wow, he looks really skinny, doesn't he?" And that I was like, never again is anybody going to say that I look skinny in front of my daughter. So that's what got me into the gym, got me working out. As I got into the gym, got working out heavily, um, I started noticing like I just didn't have energy. I just didn't have drive. Um, and I started talking to my wife, about maybe I have low testosterone. Um, so I've I've got to a point in my life dealing with doctors my entire life, and at sometimes I feel like I know more than doctors. I know I don't, but I know like when I have to explain to doctors what's going on, and they look at me like they have no idea what I'm saying. I've gotten irritated with a lot of doctors over the years, so we decided to to figure this out on our own. And that's when I started using tests. I guess it was the end of 2019 or the beginning of 2020. I guess it was no, it was the end of 2020. I think is when I first started using tests, and that was the huge game changer. And uh, I did not go in with the bro science 500 milligrams of test and 50 milligrams of D-ball. I took 150 milligrams of test, and I did it for 6 8 weeks, um, and then I went up to 175 milligrams, and I slowly worked my way up to 200, and I stayed on 200 for a long time. Um, and then through that, you know, um, my joints started to get in the way with stuff. Bench pressing became very tedious. Even dumbbell pressing and a lot of other movements. So I threw in a little bit of DECA, and not 300 400 milligrams of DECA. I was taking. I tried 50 milligrams of DECA. That didn't really seem to help my joints any. So I went up to 100 milligrams a week. That seemed to be the sweet spot for me. Then how everything goes. You bigger, faster, stronger. We want to always try to continue to progress. So,
Yeah.
you know, I know a lot of people don't talk about stuff like, PD usage and stuff like that with their partners and stuff like that. But me and my wife talk about everything.
Good.
And if she said no, I wasn't going to do it. So, I discussed, doing a bigger cycle. And she said, well, whatever you think, just, make sure you stay safe because you don't want me to die.
Yeah.
And so then I ran some DECA tests, and I've got pictures of that, and I looked like a water buffalo. The blood pressure went up and all that stuff, and it was around Christmas time, and man, I ate like probably 10 pounds of shrimp, and I looked like a walrus. Um, but
I like your low dose approach, Steve. He's learning about his body. He's learning what he can take. He's learning what works for him. And this is the reason why we tell younger listeners, don't jump on a fucking stack. Don't do crazy amounts. Listen to what Tags just said. He realized what worked, what didn't work, what made him a water buffalo, what you can eat, what you can't eat.
Yeah.
And
You're keeping things under control is what it is.
yes.
You're keeping things flexible and under control. You're not getting yourself, you're not over leveraging things. It's like if you gamble or something, it's like borrowing money from everybody in the poker room to bet on. You're over leveraging yourself and you have a bad night. Suddenly you owe like 20 different people money. And it's
yeah,
like you can never show yourself again. It's the same thing with steroids. You run too much, it backfires on you. So I think it makes a lot of sense. That's great advice. Go ahead. Yep.
and then you don't know what did what. I mean, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
like, so when I first started working out, I learned what I needed to eat to grow,
Yeah.
what I needed to do to grow, and then later on I added in PEDs, and I already had two things, not all the way figured out, obviously, because you continue to learn as you go. But
Yeah.
I had a good grasp on, the food and the training.
Yeah.
So then the PEDs were the
So you have
variable
to
that
be
I had to
strict with
figure
your
out.
food the whole way. You have to be strict with your food the whole
Yeah.
way
Yeah.
because you don't want to have to take, have to go to the bathroom 20 times a day. So it's ironic how we can view things as a negative thing, or you can view things as a positive thing. Maybe in the end, this was a positive thing because it's forced you to eat clean. Because if you don't eat clean, bad things are going to happen, right? Like if you were to
Yeah.
go eat a whole pizza right now, what would happen hypothetically? It wouldn't end
Um,
well, right?
my blood pressure would go up,
Yeah.
and I would feel like absolute crap. I'd feel like I
Yep.
had razor blades in my stomach, and you wouldn't see me
Yep.
for the next 4 hours.
Yeah. So those of you out there who are listening to this and you're like, you're eating a lot of junk food and you're like, well, I'm eating a lot of junk food, I'm getting away with it. At the end of the day, you're still damaging your body, even though it may not be noticeable. You're damaging your body in ways that you can't see. But Tag, he can definitely have a bigger
Yeah.
reaction because of this
Much
prior
quicker.
issue. But
Yeah.
you may not have a reaction like that, but it doesn't mean you're still not causing damage. So it's a good
I want
idea
to.
to eat clean.
I want to ask you, Tate, because you made the reference to the medication earlier on. Some people, not every person, but there's a sort of almost psychological impact. We've talked about roid rage. We talked about how for some people going on TRT can be transformative mentally as well as physically. Did the medical impact of your previous medical conditions, I won't say be negated because that's not quite, it's still going to be there. You're still going to have issues. But the idea for some people that you being on testosterone can make you, quote unquote, just feel fucking better, just feel more, quote unquote, manly or more muscular or whatever else. Was there an element of that for you taking PEDs, or was it just literally add muscle, feel better from adding muscle, taking control of your life? Was it a
No,
combination of
so
both?
I'll tell you, it was 100% a quality of life thing. Because before I started taking tests, I would work my full day. I would be 100% wiped out. I would not have the energy to do anything. I would fall asleep before I eat
Yeah,
dinner.
yeah.
And I'm talking 28 years old. And I don't have the
Feeling
energy
old,
to spend time with
feeling
my
old. Yeah,
family.
yeah.
And
So that sense
when
of
I started,
well-being. Yeah,
yeah, when I started taking tests, so it's been a conversation, between my wife and my parents, because my
yeah,
mom is not, ecstatic about the fact that I use steroids, but
yeah, yeah,
she will say that my quality of life is drastically better.
yeah,
And my wife is a huge proponent, because she will tell you that before steroids, I didn't have the energy to spend time with my family after I finished working. Now I have more energy. We go off and do stuff on the weekends. We do stuff in the evenings. Me and my wife, we actually go to the gym together every night. So it's
That's great.
it's it's nice us time. So it's the only problem is when you go to the bench press, 300 pounds,
And
and
you
you
gotta
have your
switch
wife
out the
spotting
weights
you.
back and forth. Yeah, yeah. Because you
Yeah,
can't hog up too. But I know I went through that.
well,
I dated a girl who was like 92 pounds and she could barely bench the bar. It was really annoying. I was benching three
yeah.
plates and she couldn't barely do the bar. So I had to kind of rack the weights up because she couldn't even lift the 45 pounds to get it
But
off.
it's huge motivation, because you're not allowed to fail, because she's not going to be able to catch it.
I know. I was like, if something happens, just go find a big dude as fast as you
Yeah.
can. That's what I tell her. I was like, you know what I'm saying? Just
yeah.
do that. But is your mom gonna be listening to this?
She probably will.
She will.
Most likely, yeah.
So like
But
Tag's mom, listen.
I've said,
No,
Steve,
let me
I still
let me
haven't.
let me
I
tell.
haven't had this conversation with my 81-year-old mother yet. So it's one of those weird situations where they care enough about you to worry about you being hurt and hurt and damaging yourself, bearing in mind everything else that's gone on. But at the same time, I do like the idea that your parents and your wife are thinking, look how much
Yeah.
better
Well,
his
I'll
quality of
say
life
this
is.
to Tag's mom. There's a way to do this the right way, and there's a way to
Yes,
do this the
hopefully.
wrong way,
Yeah,
just like everything else. So you can run
yeah,
steroids and it can cause issues, or you can run them and it
yeah,
could be like what Tag is doing. It's a quality of life thing. So I've been full
yes,
circle. I've done it every which
yeah,
way. So
yeah,
so at the end of the day, like the quality of life that these hormones can provide can be extremely beneficial if you do them the right way, as he's doing. So definitely, like, it's, but at the end of the day, there are people that make us look bad. It's just like anything else. Just like people who smoke
yeah.
pot. There's pot people who smoke pot for medical reasons, and there's pot heads who sit around and smoke pot and toss their pot, and on the floor and smoke in front of
Yeah.
kids that give everybody a bad name who smokes pot. So you could look at it like any way like that. So
I want to just ask you a little bit about nutrition, and especially in light of your condition. I made a note here, which I'm just looking at. I says he likes sushi. I'm kind of jealous because that sushi looked fucking amazing. And Steve, there's a few photographs throughout his log where there's some big fucking plates, like more than one plate of sushi. So obviously, protein, nutrition, etc. Talk a little bit about your adaptive diet and specifically the affectation, if you like, for the volumes of sushi that you're able to put away here, which I'm a little bit jealous about.
So sushi is my jam. I can sit and eat sushi till I can't get up from the table. Um, and I love going to an all-you-can-eat sushi place and sitting and eating sushi for an hour and a half. But for the most part of my diet, my wife is amazing. She is a huge supporter of me and everything that I do. She does my meal prep for me. She gets my breakfast done every morning. The guys at work give me a hard time because I come in and eat cold eggs. And I do not eat boiled eggs. Just want to state that, because I think boiled eggs are absolutely disgusting. Um, but my wife makes me scrambled eggs every night, puts them in a tray. Next morning, I put some ketchup on them, and I, I was eating oatmeal, and I was eating a cup and a half of oatmeal every day. Um, and I started having some digestion issues. The oatmeal was not agreeing with me, so
do
I
you think
cut
it's
that
because the
out for.
fiber? It's too much fiber. Or is that
I
something
think
else?
it was the consistency. I don't think I was breaking
Ah,
the
okay.
oats down. So I cut the oatmeal out for a little while. I just recently added it back in. Um, and now my wife takes the oatmeal and she puts it in a grinder and she grinds it up into a powder. It looks like I eat baby food. But I've been doing it for 2 weeks now, and
So that works.
the
Okay.
digestion seems to be a
So the
lot better.
consistency of food is that's interesting. That's
Yeah,
really
so
cool. It's
roughage,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, anything like roughage, like lettuce and stuff like that, I try to avoid because I can't
Yeah.
digest it, and it tends to irritate me, cause discomfort.
Okay.
Um,
Yep.
So any vegetable that you can pretty much tie around your shoe, pretty much, or something you want to avoid, like cabbage and Swiss chard and things like that are really like you said, roughage. But so that would be something for a lot of you out there to keep in mind. But something, I mean, if you wanted to go with vegetables, you want to make sure you cook the vegetables thoroughly to kind of release those
Yeah.
gases. I think that would help a lot. And
yeah.
In the shows with David Williams again, and this is a massive issue. Ironically, as you'll know from the forums tag, we constantly, for new members that are correcting their diet, getting critique on their diet. One of the issues is a lack of fiber. So we quite often say, listen, you need to eat more leafy vegetables, you need to have more greens and colors in your diet. And that's true. But when you've got the medical condition that Tag's got, when you've got the medical condition that David's got, ironically,
you don't want
a
fiber.
normal amount of fiber will irritate the fuck out of
Yeah.
you because it's literally doing what it's supposed to do, but it's in the same way, it's kind of abrasing the side of the ulcerated colon,
Yeah. It's almost
etc., that
like you
these
want
guys
to
are dealing with. So,
avoid fiber
yes,
in some of those
yeah, which
situations.
you
And
normally wouldn't do.
so
Yeah,
that goes back to what I always say to people. There's no such thing as a copy paste diet. Like these gurus online selling $500 copy
oh
paste diet.
God,
They
no.
say that's bullshit. That they should be ashamed of themselves because everybody is going to be different. Everybody's going to be
Yeah,
different.
you have to know your body and you
Yep.
have to be able to adapt. You know, somebody might give you a plan that might work perfect for them, but that doesn't mean it's going to work perfect for
No.
you.
And your body changes too. It may not work a year from now or 5 years from now or 10 years from now because our bodies do change. So what?
Exactly, like the oatmeal. I ate the oatmeal for 3 years straight. Every morning, I had
Yep.
a cup and a half of oatmeal, and then just one day it just didn't digest well, and
Yep.
no matter what I did, it just didn't work. We adapted.
Yeah, your body builds intolerances and allergies. Like if you eat almonds every single day, this happened to me. I ate almonds every single day for like 3 months. I started developing allergy from almonds. So I had to
Hmm.
stop. Literally switched them out for another nut for 3 months. Then I went back to almonds and I was fine. So it's like our
Yeah,
bodies do adjust. It's just something that's just an evolutionary thing that we had over 2 million years. And that's just our way of surviving is adapting to foods, different climates, the way, things, moving around as nomads and having new access to different foods and stuff. So everybody's gonna be living. So if you're listening at this, elimination diet is crucial. So you want to basically, if something's bothering you, eliminate it. If something's bothering you, eliminate it. And then you want to stick to that diet. And then if something starts bothering you, like in Tag's case, oatmeal started bothering him, eliminate it. You got to kind of follow that diet. You can't keep throwing stuff at your body that's going to upset your stomach and cause issues just because the bodybuilder on YouTube or Instagram that you're listening to is saying you should eat this type of food.
yeah, yeah.
That's
yeah,
that's
and
the
Let
simple
me
that
thing.
ask you a question. Yeah, sorry. Let me ask you a question to move us along a little tiny bit. Something that we've asked the last two or three interview type shows that we've done is the benefits for being on Evolutionary, for being on the forum, for having the kind of help and advice, for the impact that you're making on the members. So talk a little bit about, what the experience of being on Evolutionary, what that means to you, good, bad, or ugly.
So I'm not a huge form guy. That's something I've had to learn and adapt with. Um, but it's been really good for my journey to be able to talk with like-minded individuals that are struggling, trying to figure out how to, program cycles, how to grow muscle, how to juggle life and work and training and all that stuff. So
Yeah,
it's been a great help, especially all the positivity on the forum. It's overwhelming with how much positivity is on there. And it's been nice seeing, we have a huge group of people from all over the world on there.
yes,
And it's cool to
yes,
see, how training is just universal and how, the gym thing, it's just universal. It applies, to every continent. And it's an awesome community. I've learned a lot. I've talked to guys about the cycles that they're doing. And again, a lot of it you have to kind of take and adapt it to yourself to figure out what works for you.
Yeah.
But it's funny to hear, how some people use, this compound and it works great for them, and the next
Yeah.
guy uses it, has terrible, side effects. Um, but it's everybody has to learn their body and learn how the things adapt to them. And the forum's been an awesome place to learn a lot of that stuff. I honestly, before
There'll
I
be
joined the
days when,
forum,
yeah, sorry, there'll be days when you're tired and when you're struggling, when you've had a long day at work, and maybe tag reading someone else's log, or someone posting a comment on tag's log, or even a comment that tag himself has posted on his log or on someone else's log will make a difference to them, and say, I was having a shit day, but you say I look good. I'm having a tired day, but you motivated me to go to the gym, and so on and so forth. But we have people, as Stag says, from all over the world, different ethnicities, different races, different religions, different educational backgrounds, working, not working, former alcoholics, former drug users. We all fucking go to the gym. We all fucking train. We all trying to be bigger, to be better, and whatever else. And that's what pulls us together. And when we're talking about that, and when we're supporting that kind of stuff, that's where we give something that comes from it. And I think really, again, especially recently, Evolutionary in that regard has been doing an amazing fucking job with the community. We've always had it, but we've actually almost gone into overdrive with the community aspect, especially with having people like yourself on these shows, Tag, because yours is not the same journey as most people's. It's not the same background. You've had issues to deal with, so that you in yourself, you might not necessarily think of yourself in that way, but you become an education. You become like Steve said, there might be, if we've got hundreds of thousands of listeners and readers on the forums and whatever else, there will be two or three people that will have worried about medical conditions and seeing that you can still train, you can still look good. So that is a positive thing right there. Is there anybody, one of the questions we've asked, sorry, is there anybody's log on the forum, one or two logs that have caught your eye and that motivate you and inspire you? I think we were talking about Wheels being in his chair was one that motivated Harley Guy, for example. Is there anybody on the forum that you follow or you read that sort of, or even a character that stands out in your mind?
yeah, I like to follow yours. I follow Noah Wicks. I like to read Harley Guys. Um, and Lord Quadfather. Dude's got some massive legs. But yeah, it's
Mm.
they whenever I'm having like a day where I just don't feel motivated, I go on there and I read, somebody's post where they went in the gym and they were grinding at it, and I'm like, well, I guess I got a couple hours I can go hit the gym.
Yeah, definitely. That's what the forum is all about. Yeah, we really appreciate you coming on, Tag. Hopefully, we'll get you back on the podcast soon. And we really, like we said, we really appreciate your hard work and it's very motivation. So go check out Tag's log. It's a fantastic log. He's been working really hard on it all throughout the summer, now into the fall. And you can see his transformation. It's been really
Yeah.
amazing. It's like a completely different person.
Thank you for
Thank y'all.
coming on, Tag. And again, sorry, just any last words from you, Tag, before we finish the show?
No, thank y'all for the opportunity. Look forward to talking to y'all again, and thank y'all, for being a part of the forum and really pushing this thing along.
Yeah, thank you again, fella. Please note, as always, we are not doctors and the opinions are ours. Is our view and based on our experience and views on the topic. Our podcasts are for informational purposes and entertainment only. The freedom of speech and the First Amendment applies.